Hello everyone, very good afternoon. Welcome to StudyIQ English channel. I am Praveen Mishra and the agenda for today's session for calling you guys all here. That is Introduction to the Indian Polity. Yes, as prelims is near and the mains will be also very near. बहुत ज़्यादा टाइम जो है नहीं मिलता है, that is you don't get much access amount of time between prelims and mains, so we have to cover up the things as early as possible, but we have to keep this thing in mind that while hustling for covering up the things, we must not, I'll repeat, we must not skip the important things. We must not skip the important chapters, as we don't know what are the questions they are going to be asked. As it is stated, UPSC, the full form, Union Public Service Commission. Yes, it is. But apart from that, it is also the Unpredictable Public Service Commission, right? So coming to the point, that is what we need to cover. We need to cover each and every aspect, because which aspect is important? Every aspect is important. Every chapter is important. You cannot say that this is fine, this is not much important, this is not much relevant, and this and that. Okay, absolutely not like that. We need to cover each and every chapter, and this is what we are going to do, right? So tomorrow onwards, 2 p.m., we will be having daily classes on the subject that is in polity. Today, it will be at 5 p.m. Okay, so in next 3 hours, we'll be meeting live again, and we will be discussing about the first ever chapter of the subject. But today, right now, at the stroke of the afternoon today, what is the agenda? We must understand what are the things we need to read first at the first basis, and then going on to the second things, right? So as we know it very well, polity has become one of the most dynamic subject, right? It is not just a static subject anymore. Its dynamism is as equivalent to as any other subject, call it economics or geography or art and culture or ecology and environment or whatsoever. And in fact, the current affairs of polity, they are being asked at the enormous amount of question, at the enormous amount of times, right? So here, when we talk about, so yes, the first thing that we need to understand, are we going to just discuss the articles? Yes, we will be. But just understanding articles doesn't make you an expert in polity. There are certain things, like for example, the doctrines. Majority of the students, what mistake they do commit? They do just read about the parts, the schedule, the articles, and so on. But they do skip this thing that is known as doctrines. And if you go ahead, go through the PYQ analysis, prelims as well as mains since for last 5 or 7 years, or maybe more, you will see that there have been instances where the questions from the doctrines have been asked directly. Yes, direct questions were there, right, in the prelims as well as in the mains. So we will be discussing about the doctrines, and then we will be going ahead with the cases. Actually, the concept of doctrines and cases, they are interrelated. Okay, so it will be better if we read doctrines and cases all together. Right. So this is what the better option is, the better criteria is, okay, that is to read doctrines along with the cases. And then we'll move to the next part, okay, that is the current events. Or we can call it the current issues, right? So yes, starting with the basis, that is the articles. When we read like the most famous book, the Gita of Indian polity, okay, or any type of name you can call it, that is Lakshmikant. What's the problem with the book Lakshmikant? Well, we're not that big enough to criticize a very great writer in the book that is Lakshmikant. But the point is, perfection is something that is beyond the scope of human capabilities. Every human, every single person of us, okay, we do have this scope of error. And Lakshmikant is a very perfect book, no doubt in that. But obviously, there are few things which are not still covered in Lakshmikant. That is, yes, the first and foremost thing is articles. The chapters, the way they are structured, the theories, the way they are written. It's written in a very perfect manner, in a very easy manner. But the only thing that is left is the article number. Many of the time it happens that we read the chapter, we read the concept, and we mug them up, and we are able to clear them up as well in our minds. But many of the times it happens that we don't even know that the thing that I have read, the last chapter, the last paragraph I have read, it belongs to which article number of the Indian Constitution. And that's the problem when we deal with the book Lakshmikant. Okay, so don't worry. We read it and we will also memorize and we will also actually decode the concept of articles here, right? So, like for example, in today's session at 5 p.m. when we'll be meeting, we'll be discussing about the salient features of the Indian Constitution. Okay. So, this is a particular article or the particular chapter which doesn't have any articles, okay, as according to the book. But when you go in depth, you will find that yes, there are many articles that you need to mug up within the very first chapter itself, right? And now talking about some theories, not just the doctrines, but also the doctrines plus theories. There are certain things, means we need to understand, like for example, I have always stated whenever I'm teaching polity in any class, that is, it's just like mathematics. If you want to be a good mathematician, if you want to be a person who knows maths very well, what is the Magna Carta to it? The only one thing that you need to do is you need to understand the formulas. Once you have understood the formula, you are done with the mathematics. Now you are a mathematician without any question. Okay. So what is the genesis? The genesis is understanding and decoding the formula, the theorems. And simply on the very same lines, just change the name of the subject from mathematics to polity. Polity is also something, you will be a political scientist for sure if you have decoded the formula. And the whole of the Indian polity, whole of it, not just the Indian polity, but the polity, relies on some couple of formulas. Like for example, there is a formula known as theory of checks and balance. Okay, there is a theory known as theory of checks and balance. Our whole subject of polity, yes, whole subject of polity relies or depends on this one particular theory known as theory of checks and balances, or also known as theory of separation of powers. Right? It's the same thing. Don't worry that are two different things, that they are two different things. No, they are not two different things. They are the same things. Okay. You call it the doctrine of separation of powers or you call it the doctrine of checks and balance. They both are same. No difference. Okay. Just the two names are there. Right. So this is what the whole subject is based upon. Absolutely. Okay. And now talking about, are we going to discuss all of these things? Yes, obviously we'll be discussing all of these things. Okay, in depth, in detail. So guys, please remember 5 p.m. today we'll be having the first class of the day, and apart from that, from tomorrow onwards, this class will be at 2 p.m. only. So I will be meeting 3 to 4 times a day at least. At 9 a.m. we will be meeting with the concept of the current affairs show, and at 2 p.m. we'll be meeting with the subject of Indian polity, and very soon we'll be meeting near about in the evening with the subject of art and culture. So we will be having the theory of mastering basics for you, for me, for all of us in the subjects that we will be discussing. That is current affairs, into the current affairs show, into the polity, that is at 2 p.m. And very soon the timings will be shared with the subject of art and culture. Okay, so we'll be mastering all the basics as well as the advanced level of information in all of the subjects that we are going to discuss. Okay, guys, so that's it for the session right now. That's it for the introduction so far right now. We'll be meeting sharp at 5 p.m. and we'll be discussing the very first ever chapter of the subject, that is the salient features of the Indian Constitution. Okay, guys, thank you so much. See you all soon at 5. Bye bye. Take care. Jai Hind.